morning, everybody. It's Thursday, November 16th, and this is the AgYield War Room. My name is Dan Dempsey, and I'll be moderating today's session. As always, if you've got any questions or comments, please feel free to leave those in the chat function, and we'll get to those during the session. Real quick, overnight markets, corn down a penny and 3/4 at 4.9. January beans down 9 3/4 at 13.75 1/4. And December Chicago wheat was down 5.5 at 5.55. This morning we had a daily announcement of export sales, 220,000 soybeans to unknown destination for 2023. We also had export sales out this morning. Corn coming in above estimates at about 1.8 million. Soybeans were 3.9 million, falling on the top end of the estimates. And wheat was disappointing for a second week in a row at 176,000. The low end of the estimates were looking for 250,000. Got a lot to get to, guys. A lot of news overnight. And our first point today, I wanted to throw it over to Justin Kelly. We were visiting this morning just about the economic and demographic slowdown in China. It seems to be with the meeting between President Biden and President Xi overnight, a lot of discussion just on how far China has fallen economically, and is that a potential swan for us as we go forward? Good morning, Justin.
Yeah, hey Dan. Yeah, I don't know. It's been something we've talked about. It's a more of a long-term picture, which is always tough. Kind of like biodiesel, right? Like you're building plants and you're picking up demand, and when you look at the demographics of China, like first of all, it's hard to get any reliable information, but there's some really smart people that have dug into it, and at the end of the day, you have a one-child policy for 30, 40 years, you're going to have a population problem. Elon Musk has talked about this, and lots of people that have really dug into it. Like, it really makes sense that they, I honestly believe that China demand has peaked as far as protein demand. I think there's a really good case for that. If we haven't peaked, we're close. I think that's what, internally why maybe they've had such an aggressive stance, why they've kind of, made their 2025 policy, why they really want to make these moves, why I think there's, geopolitical risk with them feeling they may need to make a move with Taiwan sooner than later. They have peaked, right? They've probably peaked in population. Now, more of that, lower class can continue to come up to middle class or upper class, right? So the protein per person could still climb for sure. But I think a reasonable case to be made for, their demand being lower 10 years from now, for some of these things like protein. So nothing you can do with that today. Right. In my opinion, there's no black swan today. There's no, nothing that we can do about it. But at the end of the day, the population growth is going to be in other countries, or Africa as a continent, right? That's going to be the big growth area. India, some other Asian countries, and the question is, what do they consume? Right? We know China's been pretty reliable. They've been growing, super fast for decades. They, as they make more money, they consume more protein. It's been a huge boom for the U.S. and for South America, right? It really jump-started South American bean production and agricultural growth in general. The future growth of the world is going to be in these countries that we're not so sure about yet. Africa, and like I said, and what do they consume? Are they going to be a wealthy country? They're going to, grow in population, but China had the growth and the wealth, right? So that was a big boom to agriculture globally. I think some of these other countries, it's to be determined how that pans out. So again, nothing you can do today. There's no black swan or anything like that today. Just kind of, I think, interesting, things to talk about.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm sure we'll build upon that. But no, thanks for that insight. It's just something, like I said, we've just been hearing more and more about it and thought it was worth bringing up. Guys, a couple things we were talking about late yesterday. We started to see some pretty favorable basis out forward. And we want to talk a little about that this morning because a lot of times we can become consumed with, cash basis and this year's crop and lose sight a little bit out forward. So throw it over to you, Brian. I know you've been looking pretty deep into this the last couple of days.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. I appreciate it. Yeah, we just noticed, the market, and we've been talking about it, adding on to like kind of what we were talking about yesterday with 24 hedging, more on the physical side of things here. Elevators seeing, how big these carries are getting in the market. And, if you fulfilled your 23, been aggressive getting basis locked for 23, there might be an opportunity for 24 as well. Kudos to a grower who was looking a year out in advance on this, gave us a call. We went over it and discussed it. I wouldn't be doing anything off fall delivery for next year, but it looks like the elevators might be enticing to get some bushels into them off the Dees basis here, Dees delivery, looking really aggressive here. So if you've got your commitments, pretty locked up for 23, and you're looking to, get a strong basis for 24. This might be an opportunity to kind of look into that, and please feel free to give us a call in here, and we can discuss that matter for you as well.
Yeah, to that point, Brian, I think what's going on is low flat price. We've got a lot of farmers undersold in the country. We've talked about it. So as flat price has gone down, as basis has widened. I think what's an interesting conversation here is, and we've talked about this internally, I think a lot of end users or buyers are, haven't bought what they want for fall needs. So basis is going up, prices are going down, spreads are getting wide. I think a lot of elevators and end users have, thought that wrong, to bull spread or get long on futures as a hedge against ownership. And I think it's kind of going against their face a little bit here. It kind of feels like that to me. It feels like, they try to get ownership on the board, as a hedge, and traditionally that works. But what's interesting this year is that a lot of the biggest crops are in the areas around our delivery points. They're in the Eastern Belt. They're along the river system. We've got low water levels, which we've talked about exclusively in our letter for months now. And I think a popular method is to get long the board or long spreads as a hedge against ownership. And Dustin, you might have more insight into this, but I think it's kind of backfiring here as we get into first notice day, where they're long on the board, they're short in the cash market, so they're having to bid up on. They're kind of getting hit on both ends. They're having to bid up on the basis because farmers are reluctant sellers because of the low flat price. So it'd be interesting what happens here.
Yeah, I'd add to that. We saw this in the September to December roll period as we got to the September first notice day and then into that delivery period. We were at a much tighter situation than what we're projected to have right now for the Dees March timeframe. And if you look at like Memphis river levels, like we're forecasting by the end of November to go back down to basically record low, like minus 10.8. So the river is certainly helping push those spreads down. And, meanwhile, you've got pretty good ethanol margins. So some of these supply deficit areas that cannot afford to run, at a reduced capacity, they're going to go, not be as price conscious, just trying to get that corn in. And so we've actually found a lot of customers are actually like foregoing, storing as long as they normally would in a 35-cent Dees to July situation. Is they're getting really good basis levels in these supply deficit areas and actually letting their storage sit idle for most of those months. An 8% margin or operating lines have a lot to do with that as well. Like it burden the hand, take it now. So I think it's very interesting, a tale of two worlds. Just remember, CBOT contracts are geared for export, and we've got a strong domestic market. So there's kind of a tale of two worlds there of why you're seeing weak spreads and strong basis in some areas.
Yeah, and I think, Dustin, to that point, it's, you look at social media and you look at people talking, and I think there's a confusion there of how these things work, and, hey, this, elevators bidding 30 over this, corn market's just being artificially pushed down by the, the paper traders. It's just not how it works, right? It's, basis is a reflection of your local supply and demand, and at the end of the day, the problem with the futures market is if you're in, a ethanol plant and you've got good margins and you're bidding 30 over the board, that doesn't do you any good to be long December futures, right? You don't have the ability to stop a barge at a cargo facility on the river, load, like, where are you going to take it, right? So there's logistical issues with actually stopping, and the contract's made for export market, right? So when you have low river levels, as you talked about, high barge freight, difficulties moving it, and no export demand, or very low, that affects the board and affects spreads negatively. That doesn't mean that basis levels can't be good. So it's kind of they're really two different things that you need to be looking at.
That's really good.
Yeah, I would just add to that from the processor's mentality right now, where we're digging out in the East. You see almost a 40-cent basis improvement from November to December. They're going into holiday season, and you have Christmas and New Year's on a Monday. So you continue to grind. You can throw out that Friday beforehand and probably the day after Christmas for deliveries. So in that time frame, they're going to run through almost, a quarter to a third of their inventory, depending on their storage, and they've got to do that for 2 weeks in a row. And they will not go into the new year without some reasonable coverage, because then they run into the issue of having a storm where weather's bad, and you could all of a sudden have a really difficult situation on your hands. So, general rule of thumb is you better be full the last day of the year. So they're going to reach to do that. And I looked at rail bids that kind of suggest as well, at least in the East, they're a very good barometer of what it takes to move corn. And if you look at rail bids across there, even there, they've appreciated quite a bit. Going from today at 38 under and the versus the Fort Wayne, all the way to 9 to 10 over out in the July timeframe. So if you back into that, what it would take to move corn, less any sort of aggressive river bid, you'd probably be looking at, an additional 10 to 15 cents of that to move corn. That's typically what it would be over rail. So I think that's also justifying the market spreads widening, that we've got to be willing to pay up for corn later, and they know that that's a possibility. But I do think, as far as basis goes, that especially if we were to get a December or early January recovery or rally, I think we could see it come off really quick, because there's a lot of bushels that are unpriced in storage that'll have to move.
That's good.
Add there, Justin?
No, that's
Very
good.
good. Yeah, I guess last point, and throw this to, maybe Jason over there. We were talking yesterday. I mean, how about that NOPA number yesterday, guys, at 189.7? It kind of blew away the top end of the estimate, and it's a largest crush for any month on record. Saw oil stocks fall. So what, as we talked about oil share a little bit yesterday, what's our opinion there?
I haven't dug into those numbers too much. Dan, Justin, you got an opinion on those crush numbers?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to see records month over month for the foreseeable future, in my opinion. This is very similar to what we saw in 2006-07 when Bush, announced the, ethanol program and ethanol mandates. Biodiesel is a huge thing. We've had a major sell-off in oil share, and oil, things probably got overheated. We got a little excited. I think there's some, running in to speak of, positions and things like that with meal, Argentine drought, that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, we're building a lot of plants. These are strong players. These are the Exxons, the Mobiles, partnering with the Cargills, the ADMs. These are people in the know. These are people with connections in Congress, with connections in Washington. These things are happening. These are players, and there's some really smart people that know more or more connected on this than I am. And you can Twitter, Facebook. There's some people talking about this, and at the end of the day, these are things that are going to happen. these green pushes, these, all these things that have been happening for years. There's billions of dollars being invested in this movement. Biodiesel is coming. It's coming strong. I think it's gonna be a major influence and major change in our markets in the next 24 months for sure. You look at the online, the amount of plants that are coming online in the next 18 months, it's staggering. I mean, it is, you almost can't, if you put a pencil to paper, you can't figure out how we're going to have enough beans in certain locales to feed these plants. Right. So we're, Dan, not to get off on a high horse here, but at the end of the day, we're going to have, I think, record over record. As long as we have beans,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to see record crush year after year for the next couple of years.
Wow.
And it's going to be really interesting to see how this all plays out because, like I said, oil has sold off. There's questions about, all these electric vehicles that are coming out. Total gasoline demand. It almost looks like it's peaked here in the U.S. As that continues to shift, like at the same time that we're building all these plants and building all this biodiesel, it's actually renewable diesel, different than biodiesel, but that's another story. How this is all going to play out? What are we going to do with the extra meal? It works out great right now because we've had a major Argentine drought, and Argentina, is the biggest exporter of meal and oil in the world by far, and they had a 60% drawdown in their crop last year, right? So we're kind of working through that hangover of meal demand here, but at some point, this kind of goes into the whole bigger picture thing. China demographics. You fast forward 2 or 3 years, it's going to be interesting with protein demand from China potentially peaking at the same time that we're going to be producing a lot more meal because of biodiesel demand. It's going to be a really interesting story in the next 18, 24 months, in my opinion.
Oh, definitely. That's really good. Just opened the markets here this morning. We're down 1.25 pennies in corn, 469.5 for December. January beans are down 10 3/4 at 13.74 1/4. December Chicago wheat's down 4 1/4 at 5.56 1/4. Any parting shots here, guys, before we go? Everybody's good? All right. We appreciate, as always, everybody hopping on this morning. We look forward to talking to everybody tomorrow. Have a great day.
All right.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Dan.
Thanks, Dan.
Dan.
Thank you.